Hello, guys. Welcome back to Popping the Popcorn. I'm your host, Katie, and today is a very special thing that I'm doing on my channel. I came up with this idea for a book club to read books and then review them and go through the books. And today we're doing the Hunger Games because I really like to read, and anybody can join us, Patrick and I. Anybody could join Patrick and I, and we'll just be reading books once a month and doing a little review of the book. And I've been reading since I was like a little kid, and I just love going on adventures, and I read everything and anything I can get my hands on. And here's Patrick from Have Cheetah Reveal. How you doing, Patrick?
All right. All right. I'm excited. I'm excited to go back to Pan Am. The Hunger Games movie series is one of my favorites, and I enjoyed the book series as well. And it's been a while since I reread it, but yeah, I'm excited to head back.
Me too. And it's a good book series, and the movies were pretty good as well. But I prefer the books to the movies anyway. But I'm excited to go through all three books. Well, actually, all four books now
Yeah,
because I have
four
a
books
fourth
now.
one.
Yeah.
I have not read the fourth one yet because it just came out 2 years ago. 2 years
No,
ago, I
no,
think.
this came out. I think it didn't come out till what, a year, about a year ago, maybe.
Maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe it came out in 2020 or
I think it came. I must have came because
2022.
they announced the sequel, filming, making the sequel. But I think she was still in the middle of writing the book, or it just got released. It just gotten released. So um, I have mixed emotions about the prequel. I mean, it's just like a movie. Let's go back to the beginning. It's like, well, why? Because we already know it's going to happen. So how come we just can't go forward?
Right.
So, but I trust her. I trust Suzanne Collins. She's a fine writer. So I'm eager to see where she takes us.
Me too. Um, and she does do a great job with the book. So let me see. I'm looking. The fourth book. When did it come out? Hold on. Looking to see when it came out. Um, so it was released in May of 2020. So 2 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. So May 2020. So three years ago now. Three.
Yep.
So probably the movie probably took about a year to film. I think most of the Hunger Games films took about a year to film. Um, I
The
think Jerry.
prequel came out in 2020. That's what they're saying. The book
What
to
came
the
out?
prequel.
Yeah. I think the same director is directing it as well. And one good thing about the Hunger Games series is it attracts top-notch talent to the movies. I mean, the books are
Yeah, it
good,
does.
and the movies bring excellent casts. So pretty much
Yes.
assured success. I think they got a little greedy with the Mockingjay, but we'll get there. We'll get there when we do. But I do think they got a little greedy with that by dividing the book in half. I just don't think it was. It's young adult. It's young adult,
Yes.
and I don't think the books are strong enough structurally to actually have that happen. To write a book into two parts. I mean, even Harry Potter suffered from that. You know, Deathly Hallows, it
Yes.
lagged in a lot of places. It just wasn't. It didn't
Yes.
justify the book being made into two movies.
Yes, it does. So yeah, I
You
enjoy the
think
books and
you
the
think it you
movies.
think it justified? You think the books justified two movies?
No.
Yeah, I didn't either. I just didn't think they're. I don't. They're young adult books. I mean, it's different from something like a Narnia, or something
Right.
like that. Yes, you can get away with that because the books are written a lot more heavier, like the Game of Thrones or whatnot. But
Right.
young adult books are designed to be read. I mean, if you look at the hardback of the Hunger Games, it looks formidable. I mean, you
Mhm.
look at it, and go like, and there's 374 pages, and you're thinking, that's a hell of a book. It's a big book. But once you crack it open and start reading, it's well written. It's very well written. Um,
Yep.
but it's not a really particular detailed book.
Right.
So there's yeah, there's. But I enjoyed it. I can't wait to get into it because it's been a while. Like I said, it's been a while since I read it, and when she suggested it, I was like, yeah, that'd be a great way to start this series.
Yes. So it's going to be a series on my channel, and we'll talk about each book that we read. We'll both pick a book each month, but for the next like 3 months, 4 months, something like that. We'll be doing the Hunger Games. Who knows? Maybe we'll flip flop. Who knows? But if we get tired of it, but for right now, we're just gonna do the Hunger Games. So the next book would be the Mockingjay. Um,
I'm not catching
which
fire.
I mean, yeah, the Catching Fire. Sorry, I don't know why I said the Mockingjay. That's the third book, but Catching Fire is my favorite one out of all of them.
Mine too, and the movie too.
Mine too. So with this first book, so the book starts out as Katniss. It's a one person like narrative book. So it starts out with Katniss, and she's basically just waking up, and she's sees her mom and her cat and her sister all sleeping, and she comes from there and throughout the books you'll see throughout the books there's these 12 districts that they became in. So basically what happens is in their world they basically go through like famine type of thing, or some kind of thing happened in the world, and so they're divided into three districts. District 12, where Katniss Everdeen lives, is the coal mining like district, so they're all like coal miners. And so each year they have the Hunger Games, which is basically somebody from that district has to be upheld, and one boy, one girl from each district has to fight for the food for their district for the year. And so basically the book starts out with Katniss, and she's waking up, and she's just like doing her day-to-day thing. And on this particular day, as she wakes up, is the day of the reaping. So what do you think of how her day started, Patrick?
Well, I want to go back a little bit, to go back and put the background down a little bit more. And I want to connect this with something else as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Thinking about this when you and I were to pick this book out, over in the Midnight Society, we have done, we've done two movies so far, and doing more. We did V for Vendetta, and we also did Fahrenheit 451, and which basically tells about basically fascist governments. Um, and Stop me if this sounds familiar to you. So some fascist governments have taken over,
Yep.
and people are rebelling against it.
Mhm.
And the Hunger Games is actually set in the United States. There was a war, though Suzanne Collins doesn't dictate exactly what happened or the manner of war, but it is set in the future, and what's left of the United States has been divided into 13 districts. Um, and the 13 districts rebelled against the capital, which is set in Colorado. It's like it's probably Denver. Um, so it was set in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, and the rest of the districts rebelled, and the capital defeated them all, um, and surrendered 12. 12 of them surrendered, and the 13th district was destroyed, or
Right.
so
Yep.
we were told. So we were told. So, as a way to ensure the capital's power over the different districts, that's where they came up with the Hunger Games, as a way of showing that we have the power, you do not. And that's where they get the 12, they get the 24 tributes to fight to
Right.
the death. Um, District 12 is basically set in the Appalachian Mountains, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, what was remaining of that area. Maybe, doesn't have an exact location,
Right.
but she mentions it in the book that it would be considered Appalachia.
Mhm.
and quite honestly, and in a really bitter, ironic way, the District 12 in Pan Am that she describes in the Hunger Games, I really couldn't tell much of a difference between West Virginia now and West Virginia in the novel set in the future.
Right.
It both sounded the same.
Mhm.
Extremely poor, extremely poverty driven, uh, issues with health, incredibly dangerous job. I mean, it's like for a book set in the future, didn't have to go very far when it came down to describing District 12 because it's already there.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I
um,
agree with you. And like because it's like based in Virginia, that's where like a lot of coal mines are and stuff, and that's what that district's based off of. And so Katniss comes from there. Her father actually, it says it even in the book. Her father died in one of the coal mines,
mhm,
and she basically Katniss basically had to grow up at a young age because her mom's like an alcoholic. It doesn't
mhm.
necessarily say, but
I didn't. I don't. Okay, I don't think that's what it was. I think it was just absolutely just grief.
that
She
too.
just,
But
yeah.
her mom though, in the movie I think it was the second movie or the third movie, that she was like drinking alcohol. It actually said
Mm,
it
okay.
because of the grief.
Okay. Yeah, because I was in the first book. She just said that her mom just disappeared. Basically,
Yeah,
went into the fog, and she had to take care
her
of
sister
Primrose and her. Yes.
Rose.
Uh,
Yep,
um.
and so she had to grow up at a young age to help take care of the family, and so she ends up learning how to hunt with Gale, and and they also go hunting for like rabbits and like deer and stuff, and this is where the book actually really takes place, starts off really.
Yeah. Um, I think Suzanne Collins did a really nice job in laying out what it was like there. You know,
Hmm.
the pressing, the pressing area, the people trading in the back, trading at the market, black market, had a black market thing going on. The peacekeepers
Yes.
basically are, the army is there, and they partake of it too. Um,
Mhm.
it's like and how I like how she wrote how everybody turned a blind eye to her and Gail hunting, as
Right.
long as they weren't walking down the middle of the road with a deer over their shoulder saying, look what I got. um,
Right, exactly.
they were able to trade very carefully and at
Mhm.
night on the back door. And even the peacekeepers were buyers of their other hunts.
Right,
Uh,
because
they,
food is so scarce there,
mhm, yes.
and
Um,
it's very hard for them to get food, so they had to do it.
um, yeah, yeah, and you think about it too. There's a couple of scenes in the movie where it looks like one person has, like everything, and then in the book you find out that that's not the case.
Right.
And it really threw me off, 'cause, like, I'm like, "That's right, I forgot about that," a lot of this came back to me because I read this book about
Mhm.
10 years ago, so
I did too. I
it
read it when it first came out.
um, and so, there's a couple of really key components in the movie that I saw in the movie that when I read in the book, I'm going like, "Oh," because I had forgotten it, and,
Mhm.
yeah, it made the movies, that much better for it.
Right. And
Um,
then there's like some very good pivotal parts in the books as well, especially when she gets the Mockingjay pen, and the first book, she gets the pen because she traded it for like her deer or whatever she had, and
right.
she gets the pen, and that's what she represents. And
So
so at that point, that's how I knew she was going to be a strong character.
yeah, there is. we do meet Gail, and we do meet Katniss, and I thought she did a pretty good job. Collins did a pretty good job of. I like the idea that Katniss told the story. She narrated the story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like that part.
Me
Um,
too, because I don't think if you heard it from Gail's eyes or if you heard it from Peta's eyes, I think it would have been like completely different.
yeah, it had to be a young girl. It had to be.
Mm-hmm.
And and I liked how Gale and Katniss, it appears that they're more brother than sister than anything else. Little does she know that Gale has more than that. He has
Right.
more in her. He really never gets a chance to really express that too much while they're out there hunting. So he
Right.
tries, because he tells Katniss, says, we could do it. We could escape.
Right.
But but Katniss is already showing her maturity way before that, saying, well, not
Mm-hmm.
only they would probably catch us, but if they did run away, what would happen to her mom and her sister? They would be punished for it. And
Right.
so, yes, you get away, but at what cost?
Right.
So, and
Yeah.
there's also a scene in the book that they did not do in the movie. They showed a giant hovercraft in the movie,
Yeah.
but they didn't show what led to that Holocaust being there and what happened. And that is that the fact that there was two people trying to escape.
Okay, right. The book says
And
it, but the movie
no,
didn't know.
the
When
movie
Gail
doesn't tell it. Yeah.
when Gail and Katniss are in the field in the book, it's saying that they're in the field and they see something, but they're not exactly sure what it is, and then it comes to find out that people were trying to leave the district.
And we see what happens to them, and we'll get to that too. Um, and that has stayed with Katniss ever since she saw that.
Mm-hmm.
That's always stayed with her. Um,
Right.
so Gail was, it was more of a fantasy than a real any truth or any reality. They know they couldn't leave. Gail was. Do I think they could have, and do I think they could have survived? Yeah, I do. I mean, they were both
Right.
really skilled, but and I don't see the capital spending resources hunting for two people. Um,
Right.
but
Exactly.
the fact of the matter is like they don't have to hunt. They don't have to go out there and spend those resources. They just tell people all the time, if you think
Right.
about running, you better take everybody, because if you don't, they're all going to pay for it.
Exactly. Yep, that's what I'm saying. Like the so we just see these different things and so after this like scene that they're going, Katniss has to go back and get ready because at this point the Hunger Games, the reaping of the Hunger Games is about to happen. So she has to get like a bath type of thing and get dressed like she's in like hunting clothes at this point, and she has to get into a dress and help her little sister get dressed. And so they go, and her sister's very, very nervous. Primrose is very, very nervous about the about the reaping and everything.
Um, and Katniss, she also breaks down how, like, you get your name tossed in the bucket, like one for first year, two for the next year, three for the next year, and it adds up. Like
Mm-hmm.
it'd be one year. Next year it would be your name's in there three times. The year after that, you're in there, because Gail was in there for 42 times. Um, if you you could volunteer to add your name to the bucket, and if you did, you would get a subsidy of grain and oil, cooking oil. So that was food. If you agreed to add in your name more than normal, you would be able to, once a month. You would get a ration of oil and grain. Um, wow. And it was, I mean, because that's one thing that Katniss talked about was, like, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but she does emphasize how they're always hungry. They're always everybody is. They're always hungry because they don't have enough. And and that's the reason why Katniss, volunteered herself, more than usual, is because she would get that ration once a month. Um, she dresses her sister up, and and this is her sister's first reaping, so her name's only goes inside the bucket one time, and so the chances of her being picked are, like 1 in 1,000. Uh, and she she tells us that, like, it's not going to happen for her. And and Gail, she's worried for Gail because Gail has 42 names or 42 tags in there.
Mm-hmm.
And um I think I forget how many with Cat. I don't think Katniss. I'm not sure if they actually told us how many times Katniss was entered, but she did volunteer herself for the food.
Yes.
Um,
Because of her little sister's name. So they pick one boy, girl. Anybody in the Hunger Games, except for adults. Adults can be tribute, but it's mostly the kids that go and fight. And so Primrose's name gets picked, and and Katniss goes, I volunteer as tribute, and so Katniss gets up on the stage, and everybody's just like looking like in disbelief because it never really happens.
Not in District 12.
No.
I mean,
And
did
then
the
and
other
then the
districts they
boy
do?
is Peter Millark, and
Mm.
he's a his dad or his parents are bakers, so he's basically a baker.
Yeah, yeah. It was funny because she comes out and she volunteers for tribute. Her sister, the one name out of thousands, she gets picked, and it's just like, and she does come out and she does volunteer as tribute, and it's been a very long time. And we got to go back a little bit. We got to talk about two key characters that do make their first appearance, and that was Effie.
Effie, yeah.
Yeah, she came around and she went to every district and read the names. Um, and then we hear about the one District 12 winner, Haymitch.
Hey Mitch,
Um,
yep.
and he is the winner. He had won the Hunger Games, but he is a raging alcoholic.
Yes, he is.
Um, and I, I know maybe a little early in the whole series to talk about this, but there is something that I do think that Suzanne Collins could have did a little better, and that is take the time to explain Haymitch's story.
Yeah, I
I mean,
agree.
they showed him in the movie as being a drunk. They showed him in Catching Fire as a drunk. I don't think he actually got anywhere near sober until Mockingjay.
He didn't.
But 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 the thing about it is this: it's not that Haymitch was a drunk, because he lived in a winter's row. He got a beautiful house made up. He could eat for any he could eat. He was every year he would
Hmm.
mentor. And imagine the mental stress that man was under. I mean,
Right.
any winner, any winner. Um, he not only did he survive his Hunger Games, but he had to kill to do it. So in his
Hmm.
head, he's thinking about all those people he had to kill to get there.
Right.
Uh, Two, is that he was expected to mentor the people who got picked for the repeat.
Hmm.
So he has to go and hopefully tell them what to do to survive, knowing full well that they probably weren't going to survive at all, and that they were going to die horrible deaths.
Right.
Every year he had to do that. I
Hmm.
drink too. I
Yep.
would, could you imagine what it was like for Haymitch every time he turned the light off in his room and he had to lay down and to be with just his own thoughts?
Hmm.
Oh, just absolutely. I mean, the fact that he's still alive and I think it gets worse with age. I think the older you get, the more praise on you, because as we see in Catching Fire, when Joanna Mason and Sam Clayton's character,
I
him,
forget his name
yeah,
too.
yeah, they had just won their Hunger Games. They had just won. They
Yeah.
were young. They were just, they're like 21, 22. That the burden hadn't really come onto their shoulders. They were still, when President Snow enacts revenge, and by bringing all the other former living tributes to the
Right.
game, they hadn't lost their edge yet necessarily. But Haymitch, he's a tragic character,
Yeah,
and
he is.
he's probably the only character that I think that Suzanne Collins underwrote. I
I
think
agree.
I think that she could have really
I think
written
there should
more.
have been like a chapter on him or something.
It should have been, um, because Katniss goes in there, and her and Peeta, because he comes up to the stage to be with them after they get picked, and he falls on national TV. He falls
Hmm.
backwards on his ass because he's drunk, and he knocks himself out.
Right.
So everybody's seeing that, and they're just laughing at him. Everybody else, all the other districts are laughing at him. The capital's laughing at him. He's laid out. Um, but they didn't explain. They didn't do. This is probably the one thing I would have liked to see, is they didn't explain. Because Katniss, and especially Katniss, um, whereas Peeta looked at him as a hero, like,
Hmm.
hey, he's gonna take care of us. Katniss had absolutely zero respect for him,
Right.
because all she saw was him being a drunk. That's all she saw. She had
Hmm.
no concept. Because she's only 16, so she has no concept of the weight that this man had to carry around. Um,
Right.
and he does care about them, and that's to his own failing, is that he cares. That's his weakness. He has compassion. I
Hmm.
mean, if he was disimpassioned, if he didn't give a rat's ass, he wouldn't be in a drunk.
Right. Well, I think Haymitch and Katniss kind of have like a love-hate relationship because at one point of the book he's like, "Sweetheart," and saying all the stuff to her, and he's like, "If you even cared about people," because she comes off as like this strong, like headed, like woman type of thing, and he's like, "If you only knew,"
Yeah. Um,
because she
she
was
has
also
that.
kind of mean at PETA in the beginning too.
Yeah. I mean, it was and Peter, when he got picked, and he comes up there, and then they go to the backstory, which, and then we find out in the movie, they showed the backstory too, where Katniss was basically starving to death. She was so weak that she couldn't even stand. And
Mhm.
and they showed in the flashback where Peeta was out there in the rain, and feeding burnt bread to the pigs,
Mhm.
and his mom comes out and yells at him, and actually slaps him.
Yeah.
Hurry up and finish your chores. And he risks a lot by throwing her the loaves of bread.
Yeah.
Um, the bread is so hard that it could survive the bump on the ground. When he tosses it to her, it's
Yeah.
not dirty.
It's
It's
like the stale bread.
right. That surprised me in the book too, Katie, when you found out that Peter's parents and him, you would think, well, they're bakers. They own a bakery.
Right.
They eat really, really well, and you find out that they themselves were only restricted to eating the baked bread, the stale bread.
Mhm.
All the fresh bread, they couldn't afford to buy the fresh bread themselves, even though they made it.
Right.
They were still victims of the system. I
Mhm.
thought that was really telling too.
Yeah, it was. And so they're on the train with Ivy. Ivy's from like the capital. What they call is like basically where the where the president lives, and all these people that are rich. They basically live in the capital. All rich people live in the capital. So
Right.
they're on this like bullet train, to the capital. This like bullet train I think gets them there in like a day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One day, 250 miles an hour.
Hmm.
Um, what did you think of the scene where Katniss had to leave? Remember, Prim was really upset, and
Yeah,
and
I thought that was like a touching scene
Mhm.
where before they get onto the train after the reaping, they go into this like little room to say goodbye to their family, and they basically the peacekeepers say you have like a minute, and Gail's there and their family's there, and then the peacekeepers take away Prim, and I thought that was like kind of sad.
Yeah, and Katniss tells Gale, says, don't let him starve, don't let him starve, and that was in the movie as well.
Hmm.
Don't, and he promises that that he won't, he'll take care of them, because they have Prim has a goat, and they could, they mention that the backstory of the goat.
Hmm.
Um, was the goat is cute, but not as cute as Black Phillip. I just want to say that for the record, that Black Phillip is still the cutest goat ever. Thank you. Thank you
Right.
very much. So yes, they get on the train with Effie, and Hamish. Hamish goes with them.
Hmm.
Um, they have to get him sobered up, and they had to patch up his head, so he's banged up and he's laid out.
Yeah.
And they go onto the train, and they get a rude awakening to what the other side does, how the other side lives.
Yep. The other side lives like lusciously.
Everything that they did not have in District 12 or any other districts. Though I do think that other districts 1, 2, and 4, I sort of got the impression because that they were treated much better
Yeah, I
than
think so too.
um,
I think President Snow, before, like it doesn't say in the books or the movies, but I think President Snow had something against District 12.
mhm. So they get on the train, and get they see all this food. I mean, it's like all the food, everything. I mean, there's food there they couldn't even imagine eating. Um, I do think I do think that um, I do think this, and of course Collins didn't write this, and I can understand that, but I think if they had eaten as much as they did when they first walked into the train,
Hmm.
I'm not really so sure they would have got out of the bathroom by the time they would reach the Capitol because I think
Right?
that food would have went through them like shit through a goose.
Right?
Um, I just it was too it would be too rich for them. They would
Hmm.
get they would
And
get
then
sick.
once they get to the Capitol, they see like all these people like wearing wigs and all kinds of like makeup and all kinds of stuff. Can
But
you
the train,
imagine the look on their face when they get there to see all
yeah,
that?
but the train ride though, Katie, the train ride we learned a lot. Remember, because we started
Hmm.
learning instantly from Effie and from Haymitch,
Hmm.
about like, you got to be nice to people, and you have to,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to be, where he starts explaining to him what's going on. He starts
Hmm.
explaining to him like, you better be nice. You got to come across as, in order to get sponsors, you
Yes.
got to come across as more friendly. Got to come across as smile,
Hmm.
like smile. Do you know how to smile? Um,
Right.
he starts telling them this. He starts laying out what are the, what's going to happen for them. Like when they get there, they're going to be taken by the dressers, and
Yeah.
it's such a rush. They
Hmm.
don't have any time at all. The only time they really have in the whole before the games themselves, probably the most quietest time they have is on that train.
Right.
And then Hey Mitch is telling them what's going on, but of course, during the progression of the trip, he's getting drunk again.
Yeah.
Oh, could you imagine what it'd be like inside that guy's head? I have so much respect for that character. It would have been so easy for him just to let go. You
Hmm.
know, they find
Right.
him swinging from the chandelier in his house.
Hmm.
I just, but he still. I mean,
Right.
I'm sure he was a mess.
I'm
Um,
sure.
and he comes across as being in his 40s.
Hmm.
So. Think about that. That's 22 years.
Right.
Remember, the age is 18. We don't know how old he was when he won his Hunger Games. They never
Right.
established that, like he was the winner of the 59th Hunger Games. We never find that out, so we don't know. We can only guess.
Right.
So he had been carrying around this luggage for 22 years. Ah,
Mhm.
not only, and again, yeah, you have to think about this. Not only the people that he killed in his own games, but every tribute since then. So
Yeah.
think about this: 22, in 22 years, 44 people, 44 young kids that
It's
he tried to
crazy.
keep alive, and he died, and they all died.
Mhm. Yeah.
Just tragic character.
Yeah, it
Truly
is.
one of the most tragic characters I've ever read, or in a book. I mean,
Me too.
yeah,
And then they get to the Capitol and they get off the train and then they have to go straight to the dresser where the dresser basically cleans them up, gives them the bath, and I think they kind of like make them pass out because even in the book and the movie, Katniss
mhm,
is awakened and she goes, "What are you doing?"
right,
So they must give them some kind of medicine or something to make them pass out.
yeah. As soon as they got off the train, they passed out.
Mhm.
Now, this is a part where this introduces my favorite character in the movies. At
Mhm.
least definitely the first one, and that is Cinna.
Oh, I love
I
Senna.
absolutely love Cinna in the
Me
movie.
too.
I
The
Lenny
good
Kravitz
the good
played.
Lenny Kravitz played him.
Oh man, I just, I'm sitting there watching him, and I'm going like, why hasn't this guy acted way before this?
Right.
Because he's awesome.
Mhm.
Um, he steals every scene that he's in
Yeah,
the
he
movie.
does.
He's badass.
Mhm. I
And
love Senna's rebellion. I think
mhm,
Senna, honestly, I think he might have been it doesn't say there's no real backstory on Senna, but I wish they would do a backstory on Senna. But I think he might have won the Hunger Games, one of the Hunger Games, because of his rebellion against the Capitol and against President Snow.
yeah, we don't know that. That's a really good point. We do know though that they have he has been a dresser. He's been doing that for a long time. But you definitely feel like, after he starts talking to them both, like, and good lord, I mean,
Mhm.
Katniss in the movie, the way Katniss looks in the movie is way different than in the book. In the book,
Mhm.
she comes across as about as hillbilly as you could get.
Right.
I mean, you're talking like she has fur everywhere.
Mhm.
Anywhere where a woman can have fur, she has it.
Right.
Arms, her legs, her underarms.
Mhm.
I can't, I can't describe the other part, but her legs. And just when I read that section, I was just made me laugh, going like, man, this is really bad. I mean, it's like I can't even imagine,
Right.
like, and
Mhm. Well,
uh,
they're poor, so they don't have razors and stuff.
well, you think they at least try to trim it a little bit, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Right.
But no, she doesn't. She's those Harrys you could get, and so
Mhm.
they have a lot of, the girls that are treating her. They say, "Oh, man, we have a lot of work to do," and then
Yes.
they proceed to take care of her, and they're talking to her, they're chattering to her,
Mhm.
um, and then Cinna comes in there, and they buff her up again. They fix her nails and everything else. They do make her beautiful. They do
Yes.
make her beautiful. And then Cinna comes in there, and he explains to them, what's going to happen, and says, "I got a special treat for you," and then even in the book, the scene of the girl on fire comes crystal clear. You can
Right.
see it in your mind's eye. If
Mhm.
you didn't see the movie, Collins describes it well enough that you can see it in your mind's eye. Um,
I agree.
and and the thing about it is, though, is Katniss is sort of thrown off because Peeta is nothing but nice to her.
Mhm. And
She
she's
doesn't
mean to
know what.
PETA.
Yes. Well, I don't think she's so much mean, but she's defensive because
Mhm.
because think about it, and there was only one winner.
Right.
There's only one winner, and we never, Collis never establishes that what happens with one district meets a, what happens when you meet your district mate? What happens if it's just you and the guy you came on the train with?
Right.
It's like, whoa, that's something, and she doesn't explain that if that's happened or not.
Mhm.
But imagine if it did. I mean, like any hesitation, you could, like, oh,
Right.
I don't want to kill Katniss, and then all of a sudden she comes up to you and whacks you, you
Right.
know. Um,
Mhm.
so by being nice to her, um, including him telling her that even his own mother didn't believe in his chances, you know.
Right.
Um, so he's nice to her. Plus, we find out why a little bit later.
Right.
Um, and so she's just defensive. She's just like,
Mhm.
I see him as someone who's going to try to kill me. I can't let him get close.
Right.
Literally and figuratively. Uh,
Mhm.
so, what did you think of the spectacle of when they rode in on the chariots?
I thought that was interesting how they rode in on the chariot, and so after they get dressed and everything, they all the districts come together, and each of them have like a different like costume on. I won't like it's like a fancy costume type of thing, and they all like ride in on these like little like floats. Some are like chariot type of things, and I thought that was pretty cool of Senna how they come riding in on it, and how he comes up with this fire concept for it and everything.
Um, the only thing that really caught me more than anything else about the movie, and even a little bit about the books, is I never got any impression at all about why Katniss, like, why was she suddenly became a figure of a rebellion? I mean, like,
Hmm.
she did nothing to start it. She had no connections to anybody. She was just a 16-year-old girl who's
Right.
scared, who's just trying to save her sister. And yet somehow, all of a sudden in the book, here's, in the movie too, she comes down there along with PETA, and Snow just has a conniption fit. Like, oh
Hmm.
my God, our iron control is going to be snapped. I
Right.
never got the impression of why that happened, because there was nothing given to the reader or to the
Right.
watcher as to why. It's like she's just a girl.
Hmm.
It's like if she had had a history of doing that back at District 12, like she had a history of rebellion or
Hmm.
sedition or any of that, like walk around and I totally understand that, but they didn't.
Hmm.
Just all of a sudden she comes in on this costume, and yes, it looks great and it represents her district. Every district,
Hmm.
had it. They all came in on the chariots representing what they brought to the district. Hers was coal, but there was never anything there to say why President Snow suddenly got scared of her. And
Um.
it is a major plot hole. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
gaping plot.
Um. I think part of the reason why is because don't forget she goes for her little sister. I go as tribute, and I think because that's never happened in history, and
That's not true. Remember the careers.
yes,
The
it happened
careers
one other
long.
time.
They did it regularly. In
Yes.
the book, they did it regularly. They would volunteer all the
Hmm.
time.
Well,
If you know,
I think because it was her little sister, and I think that's what made the rebellion against Snow happen. Is because people were
maybe,
seeing.
maybe, but you look at
Hmm.
Rue, and she had five brothers and sisters.
Yep.
What's the difference? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
She was fighting for the. I mean, who knows what the other ones were fighting for?
Maybe Snow. It doesn't say, but there
Mm.
could have been one other. It doesn't really say. I know Haymitch is the only one that we know about in District 12. Maybe her father or mother at some point went into the Hunger Games or something happened. Maybe
Yeah,
that's why.
maybe we'll get that answer in the prequel book.
Maybe.
I would hope so because it's a huge plot hole. It really truly is. It's like you watch the movie and you all of a sudden she comes off the train. All of a sudden now she's the all of a sudden now she's this symbol, and it's like, okay, how does she become a symbol? Because you're not giving us anything at all to tell us how this
Mhm.
happened. You're asking us to see wake up one day as Katniss Everdeen in in the seam, to all of a sudden Katniss Everdeen, symbol of the rebellion. It's
Right.
like there's nothing there to connect any of that,
Mhm.
and that it didn't just ring true. That
Right.
I have to, in my opinion, it just didn't ring true. It didn't ring true in the movie either. It was like, I don't. I
Right.
mean, if anybody would have been the face of the rebellion, if anybody would have been like that, it would have been Joanna Mason.
Yeah.
She was a fire plug. She was a
Yeah.
spark
She
plug.
was. I think also Cinna should have been a rebellion like symbol too.
Well, he was, but that's why he ended up. That's why he ended up. Well, in the movie, Catching Fire. That's the reason why we see him. Well, I do believe he dies in the second book. I have to read it, but I do believe in the movie it implies that he dies, which really sucks. Um, all right, so um, wow. They meet the other people from the other districts. They ride down, and then we meet Flickerman, Caesar Flickerman, the host of the interview
Mhm.
show, and wonderfully played in the movie, by the way, by Stanley Tucci.
Yeah, he did a
Wonderful
great
performance.
job.
He did, and I believe that he is in the new one, the new movie, and I'm glad to see that. Um, and so he brings up every each tribute for 5 minutes. And
Mhm.
of course, when they rode down the the hallway, they had and Peter says, "Let's hold hands," and then they race
Yeah.
towards each other, and and Caesar's, oh, he puts them over by sitting there going, "District 12, proud," and whatnot,
Mhm.
and then and of course then the bombshell happens.
Yeah.
The bombshell happens when Peter says that, is there anybody back home? He says, "No, she's here with me now." And all of a
Yeah.
sudden we find out that
Haymitch told him to say that.
yes. And of course, Katniss is thinking it's gamemanship. She thinks it's gamemanship. She's just like, trying to get into her head, psychological warfare, so to speak,
Mhm.
not even suspecting at all that he was just being truthful. Even though in her heart, I really do believe in her heart, I
Mhm.
think she knew how he felt about her because he she carried that memory of the bread with,
Right.
you know, um, and and always was she was always like, she knew that she sort of owed him in a sense,
Mhm.
not really knowing that, well, and suspecting that he liked her a little bit more than let on, because when they were,
Right.
they saw each other at school or what have you, they would see each other, and then he would always turn his head away, but he was always looking at her,
Right.
you know, catching her. So he had feelings for her, but she thought it was just gamemanship.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, I felt bad for them both, because wow, I mean, could you imagine that? Could you imagine here you are with the person you really do like? I mean, you really do like that person, and you like him more than you like him more than just a friend. It's not more.
Right.
It's not just your district. It's someone you have feelings for, emotions for, and now you're being asked to potentially have to kill her.
Right.
Mm.
Yep.
Again. I'm surprised any. I'm surprised there's any past winners still alive. Tell you the
Right.
truth. Really, tell you the truth, I'm really surprised. At least,
Right.
at least past 30.
Right.
Up to 30. I think by the time they hit 30, and they've already
Mhm.
trained 12 teams and
Right.
left one. I mean, that's when you start falling apart.
Right.
But So they and again, they start, hey Mitch is, they're supposed to train together, and then and
Right.
then Cadmus finds out that she find well first of all they get off that stage,
Yep, they get off the
yeah,
stage.
and they go back to the apartment, and
And
Catnip,
don't forget, because they're District 12, they're in the penthouse of the
right,
apartment. It's
and
like a big
Catnip,
hotel that they're in.
right, and remember when Katniss comes in and she sees him, she's mad at him, and she pushes him into the
Yeah.
glass case, and so
Yes.
he gets cut up.
Mhm.
So they have to take him for treatment, and then Haymitch starts explaining to her, like, like you don't get it. He made you look strong, because she said, "You made me look weak." He says,
Right.
"No, you made you look strong. He made you look desirable and attractive."
Mhm.
Because that is true. That is true. That psychological is true. When you see somebody who is with somebody else,
Mhm.
and you see them, and this is why we have affairs in this world. All of a sudden you have desires, and you're like, wow, I really like to be with that person. And
Right.
because you see them with somebody else, it's just psychologically speaking, it does happen that way.
Mhm. It
And
does.
so
Yep.
when when PETA did that, he did do that. He made her look desirable, and like she's 16 years old, kids. Um, she's
Mhm.
16 years old, but she's gonna be asked to go inside arena to kick some ass. So
Right.
you can see how she was being looked at. Um,
Mhm. Yeah, I agree.
he was really Peter really did try. He
Yeah,
did
he
try
did.
all the way to. He was always looking out for her.
Yeah, he was.
He really was throughout the whole book. He was looking
Mhm.
out.
Yep.
And we'll get there too. Um, but I do think though that it did cause her some dissension a little bit within her own self. Is when Peter asked to be trained separately
Right.
from them, from Katniss, and
Mhm.
she sort of got the idea. Um, and the funny part too is when they start talking about their strengths.
Yep.
Don't show off everything, or what can you do, and Peter starts selling
Mhm.
cat. She starts,
Yeah.
she can hit her. She's the best hunter. She's the best hunter in the district. She can hit it. She can knock it. She can kill a rabbit with an arrow in the eye. She can do this.
Mhm.
She's awesome. And at first you think that, oh yeah, all right, yeah, that's me. Oh, wait a
Mhm.
minute, what? Because it's like, don't paint me up to be a target here. And then
Right.
Kevin says, well, what about you? You can throw 100 pounds or more
Uh-huh.
easily. I mean,
Right.
Peter's strong.
Yeah,
He's
he
really
is.
strong.
Mhm.
Um, so they're all trying to one up. They're trying to one up each other
Yeah.
before they go in front of the game masters.
Mhm.
Um,
Which is
we
the
did,
game masters are really cool.
yeah. The game masters are cool. I gotta say too that
Sinister
this
Crane, that's the game master in the first one.
um uh I really liked how I thought they did a nice job. Actually, they developed him much better in the movie than they did in the book.
Mhm.
In the book, he was just a name. There was
Right.
no interaction between him and Snow in the book. None of that subplot in the movie is in the book.
Right.
Like Snow and him talking to each other,
Mhm.
and Snow sitting there and going like, make this a good Hunger Games, but not too good Hunger Games, and just and he
Right.
says, I like you, so don't make me not like you. And there's none of that in the book.
No.
Um, there's 20 game masters.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm not sure if they're game masters as far as planning out the game, or they're the
Yeah,
ones that actually
Senna
run it.
Crane is like the lead is the lead game master, so he says what goes.
So they do go down there and they do show off their skills. First they do with all the other districts, and you see, Katniss is explaining how
Mhm.
just about everybody there is bigger than her. I mean,
Right.
just about everybody. It's just a handful of girls that are smaller, and
Mhm.
one boy with a club foot. So
Right.
if you're born with a handicap, that ain't getting you out of the Hunger Games. You're still going in. But
Yep.
I don't have hands. Your name got picked. You know,
Yep.
you're lucky.
Nobody's
May
excluded.
may the odds be ever in your favor.
Yep.
um, so I thought that was interesting, and she explains this. She brings into she explains what careers are for the first time.
Mhm.
The districts 1, 2, and 4, I think they were,
Yep.
where they were bred for the Hunger Games. They trained for the Hunger Games.
Yes.
Like when their names were called, people would try to tribute to get in front of the person who got picked. Didn't always work out, but
Right.
they wanted their crack at it.
Mhm.
So that made them extraordinarily dangerous because they had a high level of skill in combat.
Right.
In
Yep.
combat, that's important to know. This it's like, because you think about this, you start thinking about it like, wow, if these guys are all badasses, all these careers are badasses. How come we don't have? How come it isn't just and how come we don't have more winners from 1, 2, and 3, or 1, 2, and 4? But we find out why later on. Um,
Mhm.
what did you think of the solo? What did you think of the solo? Where Peter had to go in there and show off his skills, and
I
Katniss
thought
had
it
to.
was interesting. I was like, why are they doing this? And then I was like, oh wait, that's how they predict who's going to win. Is is that's what they do, is they kind of show off their talents to the game master and President Snow, and that's how they predict the winner.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting, and they do have that scene, that one notable scene in the book. It is in the movie. Um, though I have to admit something. I have to admit that I was a little taken aback when I saw the previews for the sequel,
Mhm.
and in there they showed one of the girls. Now remember, this is the sequel to the Hunger Games, 74 years, 75 years before we get Katniss,
Right.
and they showed one of the girls, I guess the main girl, and she curtsies the same way as Katniss does in the Hunger Games.
Mhm.
I saw that and I'm like, I didn't like that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I didn't like that. I'm like, I don't, that no, I'm not going for that. Like she's gonna do
Right.
the same thing, and it's like, no, I think that's just a. Mm-mm. I just didn't. They didn't feel right. It's
Right.
like
Mhm.
Katniss doing her thing is Katniss. That's what makes her such a unique individual.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when they showed that in the previews of that, I was like, oh brother.
Right.
I mean, is that
Yeah,
what you
so
said? I mean, what did you say when you saw that curtsy?
I just thought that was weird, like her doing the curtsy. I was like, she's just showing off at this point.
Yeah, I'm going like, I don't understand. I mean, that part that was in another movie. That's with a different character. Why are you bringing that back and putting it
Mhm.
um? I could understand having the whistle. The noise at the end of the movie, at the end of the preview for that, is
Right.
because that was established in earlier. Like
Mhm.
Katniss said that her mom, and then Ruse mentioned that too. How
Right.
birds could do that, could do the sound. So I could see that going from generation to generation to generation. But curtsying before the game masters, yeah, I didn't. I was like, nah.
Right. But
Okay.
yeah, so yeah, so they go through their individual like things and they show off what they can do. And so Katniss, she kind of misses the target. So then she decides to go after the game masters because they stopped paying attention to her, and she throws an arrow right almost to Crane's head almost.
No, she shot at the apple.
Yeah,
She
she
shot
shot
the
the
apple.
apple,
She
but
shot
it
the
almost
apple out
hit
of the
Crane's
pig.
head though.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, it was pretty. It was a pretty daring shot.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, I don't think she would have shot at anybody because she just would have been killed right then and there.
Right.
Um, I do think though she was trying to get his attention, and
And then
she
it got their attention and it broke the glass too that was there.
and because because she like Gail said, go with what you know.
Mhm.
Go with what you know. You know how to hunt. You know how to shoot a bow and arrow.
Right.
And show when you show off your skill, like when she was doing that, and and when she did show off her big skill, you have to because no one paid attention to her when she shot the target, but when she shot the pig, the apple out of the pig's
Mhm.
mouth, she did ensure one thing. She ensured that she was going to have an opportunity for a bow and arrow.
Right.
I
Mhm.
mean, that was going to be included because I think, I think in the
Mhm.
cornopia, I think that everybody, whatever weapons they trained out with, graded higher with, I think they were included.
They
Like
were all
yeah,
all
if
of
you're
their
good,
weapons that they used for like when they were showing off to the game makers in snow,
mhm.
they put all those weapons in there so that way they had a chance of surviving.
Well, that was actually a death trap, though. That's the
Yep,
thing, the
it
death trap,
was.
because you're gonna try, like that's what Haymitch said. Is you can't go forward. You got to go backwards because if you go
Right.
forward, it's a bloodbath.
Right.
So and
Mhm.
it's in the movie and in the book it does show that. Like,
Right.
but we'll get there in a minute. Um, yeah, when they did the picking the winners,
Mhm.
that was interesting. It was like they had all the high ones, and then they had her as the 11 out of a possible 12.
Right.
Um,
And
and of
then
course,
that made her like have like a thing on her back.
yeah, targets on her back.
Mhm.
Peter didn't. He graded out pretty good too, though. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the movie, I think he got an 8
Yeah,
or
in the
something.
movie he got an 8. In the book I think he was a 7.
He was strong, so
Mhm.
if he got his hands on you, even against Kato or
Mhm.
Thresh, that was going to be a good fight.
Yeah.
That would have been a good fight.
I would have
He
liked to see that.
I was hoping to see Kato and Thresh at it.
Right.
What I wanted to see, but Thresh was
Mhm.
badass in the movie. Holy shit, that guy was badass.
Yeah, he was.
Oh man, he got revenge hard.
Yeah, he did.
I remember at the theater when that scene happened, everybody
Mhm.
clapped. I
Yeah,
was
I'm
so
sure.
happy. I'm like, yeah, kill that.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, uh. So yeah, so they go ahead and they do their final interviews,
Yeah.
and then they all go to bed. And the next day, they get up. But before that, PETA and you know and now they're starting to understand what they need to do. They start
Right.
talking together. They're seen close together. So all of a sudden now, now they're starting to look more and more like star-crossed lovers of District 12. And,
Mhm.
they have to sell that. Hamish is saying, going like, if you could sell that, help me get sponsors for you.
Yep.
If you need something, it's hard because the whole of the games, you're going around trying to get people to sponsor you. And what was really shocking in the book was how expensive it was. Because when you go
Mhm.
inside the Capitol, it looks like nobody is wanting for anything.
Right.
Like, whatever you want, you got.
Right,
It's everybody.
exactly.
It's like, you would think, well, to buy a bowl of soup, okay, that'd be like $20 capital money, not a problem.
Right.
But good Lord, not the case.
Mhm.
I think the Capitol was socialist.
I think so too.
I think that's what it was. I think it was a socialism in a sense that because they didn't need money,
Right.
they didn't have money.
Mhm.
I think that, I got that impression from that. It was like, okay, how come these guys just can't walk over and say, yeah, I got $40. I'll buy I'm gonna buy my favorite here. But it was so expensive that it
Mhm.
wasn't a sponsor, it was sponsors.
Right.
Um,
So
and
yes,
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. And then they go on like this helicopter, and then they
Mhm.
go into the Hunger Games, because this is like, it's kind of like a virtual world, kind of not. It's like a big like dome type of thing that they're in. So it's like a virtual reality, but not really, because it's actually real life.
Right. And we see her. We see Katniss at the end with Cinna.
Mhm.
He dresses her, and he puts the pin on her.
Yep, and she goes into this like tube thing,
Right.
which is
And
interesting.
yeah, she goes in there, and she looks behind. There's Aunt Senna, and he's seeing her, and
Mhm.
they get pushed up to the front, and they're on a pad,
Yep,
and
on a lake.
yes, the 60 seconds you have to stay on your pad. There's the cornucopias in front of them.
Mhm.
Everything that they could possibly want to survive is in front of them.
Yep.
But of course, you got 23 other crazy people with you that are all wanting the same thing that you want. And you can't leave early. If you
Right.
leave early before 60 seconds, your pad that you're standing on is a landmine and it will kill you. It'll blow you up.
Yeah.
But you have to stay there on there and be patient until the 60 seconds and the bell rings. And they said, hey, Mitch has said, just whatever you do, don't go forward, go backwards. If
Right.
you go forwards, you're gonna get caught in the meat grinder.
Mhm.
And they showed that very well in the movie.
Yeah,
They
they
did
did.
that very well. Um, they showed all the people that were running to the cornopia to get everything they needed, and a lot of them never had a chance. Um,
Right.
in fact, Katniss herself barely escapes death because she goes forward, and the only thing that saves her is a young boy cuts in front of her and
Yeah.
stops a glimmer from putting knives into her. She throws three knives. She
Yep.
throws knives at Katniss, and one hits the boy, kills him, and then she grabs a bag and she puts it in
Mhm.
front of her face, and one of the knives goes inside the bag,
Yep.
and then Katniss turns and she runs.
Yep.
And she didn't get, but she only got like she went forward maybe like 10 feet. I mean, she wasn't. She was going to grab whatever was in front of her. She was going to grab, even though there was a bow and arrow
Yep.
and a bundle of arrows in front of her.
Mhm.
Because I mean, she looked over at Peeta in the movie, and you see Peeta shake his head like, "Don't go forward. Don't do it."
Right.
And so when the bell does go off, even in the book, it shows that Peeta and her go backwards, but
Yep.
they're separated. They're separated
They're separated, yeah.
right away.
Until
Um, so what did you think of the battle at the Cornopia? I mean,
I thought it was a crazy battle, because everybody's trying to get food, everybody's trying to get stuff to survive. Because in this environment, in this game, they're in the wilderness. So you're out in the wilderness basically camping. You do have water around you because you're basically near a lake, but everybody's in the forest. So when you're in the forest, you want to look for like water, stuff like that. And so these people are all going towards the stuff to get like what they need to survive, and everybody's basically almost getting killed.
um, yeah, it was I was reading that the Hunger Games is actually one of the books that a lot of and I'm gonna say it because it's true. But it's a book that's being targeted by right wingers at libraries. The
Mhm,
library state is one of the books that's always being attacked um, for language and violence.
mhm.
I got to tell you, Suzanne Collins could write her ass off because this book it tells a horrific tale, but it's not graphic. It's not graphic. It's
No, it's not.
at all. It tells you it tells you through other means. Like there's no like Cato takes a knife and he rams it through Joe Schmo from District 7, shoves him right up the neck, take chopped
Right.
off his head. It's not like blood squirted all over inside the shed. It's none of that. It's just like, there it was just a bloodbath. It's like, and she
Right.
describes the deaths basically by using the sense of the cannon. Like whenever a cannon goes off, that somebody died. So
Right.
you're hearing about that through the canon much more than her writing about it. You
Right.
know,
Exactly.
this District 8 girl got killed by the District 9 boy.
Mhm.
When he stabbed her through the spleen. You're not
Right.
getting that here.
No.
You're getting a young adult version of a horrific event, but written such a way that it's not graphic,
Right.
but it is a battle to the death, and people are dying. And
Mhm.
so she, um, she explains this by, like at the end of the day, or you hear a cannon go off because they're all injected with a tracker when
Yep.
they're flying there on the airplane before they get put into the tube. They're all put up with a tracker, so that's how they know when you're alive or dead. So
Right.
whenever you hear a
And
cannon, that person somebody died, but you don't know who dies until that night.
right. And it's also televised, so all the districts can
Yeah,
see it and the capital.
right. Um, so and so so I thought that part of the book, um, I thought that was really beautifully written, expertly written, in my
It
opinion.
was.
Um,
Mhm.
I don't understand how anybody, I mean, Jesus Christ, I mean, you're going to go after the Hunger Games.
Right.
You're going to go after the Hunger Games, right? You're going to go after this book right here, right?
Mhm.
And yet there's a book out there that's far fucking worse. Sorry, but
It's okay.
passion here. Um, you got the Holy
Mhm.
Bible right here. Have you ever read the Bible?
Yeah.
Now you tell me, honest to God, tell me, which one's more violent, the
The
Bible
Bible.
or the Hunger Games?
The Bible's more violent.
Oh, by far. This is one of the most
Mhm.
violent things ever written by man. There's
Mhm.
so much death and destruction and depravity and degradation in this book, and
Mhm.
yet here we are. We're talking a young adult book.
Right. Mhm. Yeah.
Makes you
So
wonder, doesn't it?
yeah, it's crazy. So Katniss finally gets out to where she like doesn't see anybody. So it's starting to get dark at this point, so she decides to climb up into a tree and sleep for the night.
Yeah, that was clever. Candace is a
Mhm.
really cool character.
She's very clever and very witty.
Yeah, she's she's definitely very sassy. Um,
Mhm.
and I mean, if Katniss Everdeen actually was a person today, I would say she'd probably be like a Jennifer Tochi.
Right?
You know,
Mhm.
um, so sassy as hell. Um, so yeah, so she's separated, and she does climb the. She's looking for water. That's the first thing she's
Right.
doing.
Which cuz in
She-
her backpack she finds a canteen in her backpack.
yeah, empty canteen
Mhm.
and
And some
empty
rope, so that's why she got in a
rope.
tree.
Yeah, she got some rope. She has a poncho or something like that, a sheet of plastic, uh,
Mhm.
a canteen bottle, and I guess some
Yep.
iodine that came with the bottle. And so she explains how it's hot. Now, this is an artificially controlled climate. The game makers are
Yep.
able to shape the game to however they see fit.
Right.
So they make it a little bit hot. She's looking for water, and she's looking, and she's almost at the end of her wits.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh yeah,
but
don't forget she also kind of goes onto the barrier, so they start throwing fire at her too.
yes, but before that though, she was looking for water,
Yeah.
and so she does find water, and then before that was her first day, and she's able to drink it, and then she goes and ties herself up.
Yep.
She ties herself up and she survives the first night. And then at night, that's when we find out who dies because um, well,
Mhm.
the cannon would go off the instant that the tribute died. It
Yep.
wasn't until the end of the night where they overhead
Projected.
they would superimpose all the people who had died. So in the very first day of the Hunger Games, 11 died.
Right. Yep.
I mean, I guess I was trying to imagine being in that situation, and quite honestly, the only thing I could think of, what would you feel? What word would you describe that feeling if you were Katniss and you're here in your tree and you hear that
Mhm.
11 people died? What's the one emotion that
I
you
would feel
feel?
sad for those people, and I think she was also worried that PETA might have died too.
Well, they showed the faces of the people who died,
Yeah.
so you
But I'm
knew.
saying before that because you can
Oh,
kind of
right,
tell she had that like worried look on her face, like where's PETA?
right. Um, I was gonna say relief. Like,
Probably that too.
I was thinking like myself, I'm going like, man, all right, 11 down already? Hell yeah. My odds just got ever more in my favor.
Right.
Um, uh, I know that sounds so brutal though, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Like here you are up in the tree and all those people died and all you can
Mhm.
think of is, it's not me. And
Yeah.
and
Right.
and it's like now the odds are, instead of 23 against one, now it's down to
Mhm.
12 against one, you know?
Right.
Um, so yes, you're right. The next day when she jumps down and she starts exploring, um, yes, she runs across the game makers who are launching a fire attack at her.
Well, it's because she went to the edge of the game, and you're not
Mhm.
supposed to do that.
She didn't know. She,
Yeah.
she just yeah, she didn't know. And so they did push her back, and it, that was yeah. They didn't care about her being the girl on fire, other than making her truly the girl on fire.
Fire. Yep.
Um, yeah. Um, and so they did shoot the fireballs at her, and she
Uh,
suffers a burn.
yep.
She gets burned, and she gets it hurts like hell. She gets pretty wiped out.
Mhm.
And,
She does. And then she goes up in a tree again.
yeah, yeah, she goes up to the tree, and then as the I was really surprised because in the movie they show her at the pond getting water, and
Mhm.
then the Kato and the crew spot her and
Yep.
they chase her. Whereas in the
Well,
book,
also don't forget PETA's with them too.
right, that part stayed both in the movie and the book. But in the book, um, she sees them before they see her.
Right.
In fact, I dare say that she could overhear. In fact, here's what happened here in the book. Uh, they attack somebody. They
Right.
they find they find a tribute, and this tells you how serious this is that they find a tribute, and they because she lets a fire up,
Yep.
and so they attack her, and they mess her up really bad, and they all leave. Kato and Glimmer and
Mhm.
PETA, and so they're leaving. They're walking, and as they're walking, and Kato mentions that I don't hear a cannon.
Mhm.
I don't hear a cannon. And then PETA says, I'll go back and I'll take care of it. So PETA gets the first kill of the two.
Mhm.
He goes back there and he kills the girl. She's
Right.
wounded. She's gonna die anyway, but he finishes her off.
Mhm.
Um, so that's the first kill between Katniss and PETA. He
PETA.
kills,
Mhm.
and you hear the cannon go off. And then while he's gone, and Katniss can hear them talking down underneath. It's like, why don't we just kill him now?
Right.
And they're saying no, we need him because we need him to find her, because
Right.
they're all intimidated by her score.
Mhm.
they want her out now.
Right.
So they're all hunting. They're all, and it happens,
Sure.
and Katniss says it happens. Every game you always have allies
Right.
until you don't have allies.
Right. Well, Katniss
Um,
never really had allies until Rue, but that's a
right.
little bit later.
But that happens I would think that would happen every game. You think that
Mhm.
it's sort of like Survivor or Big
Right.
Brother. You always have alliances. Like, I'm going to take you to the final two.
Right. Mhm.
I'm going to take you. But you're still going to have to fight to the death.
Right.
You know, like to me, if I'm in that situation,
Mhm.
I'm going to try to kill every male I can.
Right.
I'm going to try to kill every male I can. I'll align myself with anybody I can to kill any male, because I
Right.
feel as a male I could take a woman.
Right.
That maybe not true, but that's how I would look at it.
Right.
I would ally anybody like anybody I could get close to.
Mhm.
You know, and the minute if the mi- if it's somebody like twice my size,
Mhm.
man, the second they turn their back, you have to
Right.
take the chance. You have to try to go for it.
Right.
Um, or in Peter's case, he bonded with them because they tracked him. They were able to track him. He wasn't able to get away, even though he ran away from the cornopia.
Right.
And the rest of the careers went inside. They were still able to find him.
Right.
So he wasn't going to be able to break away on his own.
Mm-mm.
Um, and they said, that's the reason we have to keep him, because he'll find her for us, and then we'll kill her.
Right.
And of course, she's sitting over there, and then I don't know why she would even speak. I mean, she saw Peter there and she was heartbroken. I
Right.
don't know why she would even speak, but she did.
Mhm.
Um, and I think she was frustrated or she was upset.
Yeah, I think so too.
So she betrays her position. And of
Mhm.
course, her position's really good though. High in the tree, and Kato
Mhm.
tries, and then Glimmer tries to shoot her, and neither one of them works. Though she did get an arrow out of it.
Yep.
Um, you know, and so they decided to set up camp underneath a tree, and it's like, you got to come down sooner than later. You
Right.
know, and so
And
that's
don't
how.
forget, because she was hurt. Also, that night she was hurt because
Yeah,
she got burned.
yes,
Um,
very.
Managed to get a sponsor and some healing cream or something too for her.
Um, so yeah, she was able to. I wasn't sure if that happened. That might have happened the first night. The first night she was up.
No, that happened the second night.
It happened the second night.
Because then it turns into the next morning. It turns into the bees.
Um, yeah, that's where Rue points out the fact that Rue shows herself, and
Yeah.
she points out the tracker jackers.
Yep.
Wow, man,
It
those
turns
things.
out to be the bees that the gift that was on there, the like little like branch or whatever was on the gift. It turns out to be the tracker jackers, which are like bees, and then the kids are still sleeping on the ground. So Rue's pointing to her and telling her to take a pocket knife and cut the tracker jacker nest down.
Right. What a lethal weapon the game
Mhm.
makers. I mean, those tracker jackers, man. They're genetically enhanced wasps, basically.
Yep.
And not only are that they can sting you to death, but if they don't sting you to death, you suffer basically a bad acid trip.
Yep. That's what happened to Katniss actually.
Right.
Because
Um,
she started, don't forget, she started to get it down, and then the one girl died because she got bit by him so many times, and then
oh,
everybody else just ran.
the deaths in the movie were far more graphic than the ones in the book.
Yep.
Um, that's for sure, because that scene with the tracker jackers in the movie was pretty hideous.
Yeah, it
Um,
was.
the book was pretty good too, but it wasn't didn't go into much detail. It just said that
Mhm.
the girl was like, one girl ran, the other girl was couldn't get out,
Right.
and
Mhm.
then the other girl ended up did dying. Um,
Yeah.
but
And then that's and then
and
that's how Katniss got the bow and arrow.
and Peter got stung. We find out later.
Yep.
Um, and yes, but she also got stung 3 or 4 times. So when
Mhm.
she hit the ground, she was already loopy. She wasn't going to
Yep.
die, but she was really well. I mean, she wouldn't have died from the stings necessarily, but she was really she's out of her mind. She didn't know which way was up.
Right.
And
And so Rue looked after her.
well, PETA saved her first.
Yep, Peter saved her first, and then Rue looked after her because Peter went somewhere else.
And when he basically said run, he basically exposed himself to
Mhm.
Cato and the rest of the tributes by sitting there saying that. So
Yep.
when they caught PETA, they almost killed him. As we find out a little
Mhm.
bit later. But then Rue, yes, she hooks up with Rue, and well, she runs first. She tries to run, and then she
Mhm.
just passes out. She
Right.
passes
Yep.
out, and Rue watches over her for 2 days. 2 days. That was a
Mhm.
long time.
Yeah, it was.
Well, think about the game makers. Without killing her, they're like, okay, she's dead meat. Why don't we just have her just have someone finish her off? But
Right.
they didn't. I thought that was interesting. And Rue came down there, took care of her until she was able to get up and come back to her senses a
Mhm.
little bit. And then she was confused because she didn't know if she had dreamt that that was part of the hallucination. That
Right.
Was Peter her ally, or was Peter still with them and trying to kill her? And so
Mhm.
in the until Rue told her that he was looking out for you. He was looking out. He wasn't trying to hurt you. I mean,
Right.
he could have hurt her. He could have killed her right then and there.
Right.
But he
Yep.
didn't. Um, so Rue and Katniss team up, and they start putting together. They first of all, this is a common theme throughout this entire book is food. Um,
Mhm.
Collins writes over and over about what they eat. It's very important. Uh, it's emphasizing how little they had. So
Right.
every time they get a chance to eat, they did. Uh,
Mhm.
Jack, she commented on that. She comments how Katniss feels like they call it empty belly, where they've eaten they've eaten a full meal, yet they still
Mhm.
feel like they haven't eaten at all. So they still go back to
Right.
eat more. Um, so she's able to use the bow and arrow and snares, and she's able to defeat her and Rue.
Mhm.
Um, and so they know that the careers are after them still, and they have to even the playing field.
Right.
Because even though it's now down to 8-1 or 9-1, or something like that, they
Mhm.
know they have to even the playing field.
Right. And then you
Um,
remember they have that plan to go back to the copia to get some food or
mhm.
supplies. So they start making like these like I don't know, like these like bomb type of things.
Well, they have to figure out.
Remember?
Yeah, they wanted to figure out because Katniss went to scout it out.
Mhm.
Yeah, Rude set up the fires. So they
Yes.
set 3 fires. That was a distraction. It was to pull away Cato and his crew. Did I say crew?
Yeah.
Damn that Dominic Toretto.
Them and those guys, yeah.
How about
Kato
how
and
about
the
how about
guys.
Cato, how about Cato and his family? Because we're all
Yeah.
family. Shit. All right.
Right?
So yeah. So Cato and his cronies. God,
Mhm.
I said crew.
It's
Shit.
okay.
I must be tired as hell. Um. So they set up the fires to draw them away, which is a good plan. And then
Mhm.
Katniss is going over there, but she notices that it seems too easy. All the
Right.
food, all the supplies are all gathered up in a huge, huge pile. It must have
Right.
took them all night to do that. Everything that was all together, and so it's just basically saying, "Come on in and grab what you can." And then then Katniss figures out that they have mined they have mined it. They have mined the ground around the cornupia.
Mhm.
So if you walked in there and you didn't know what you're doing, you could blow yourself up. So
Right.
so Katniss notices Fox face,
Mhm.
and she's a single girl, and she's small redheaded girl, and they call her Fox face. But she's
Yeah.
able she's able to come through, and she notices how she does it. she's walking to the cornopia like it's a minefield. She's
Mhm.
very careful where she steps, and she steps the same place there and back. So, and Katniss figures it out that they mined it. So
Yep.
after she sees Foxface grabs supplies and runs, she decides to go ahead and take a shot at it, literally.
Yep.
And so she does. She shoots a bunch of fruit, and it causes some
Explosion.
fruit. Yeah, it causes an explosion, a chain explosion, not just one, but a chain.
Mhm.
So that causes it to all blow up, and Katniss is thrown backwards. And we find out, though, in the movie, it was different. The book, she got blown backwards, and she lost her hearing. She burst her
Yep.
eardrum. So she lost in the book. She just had a ringing, but in
Yep.
the book, she lost her hearing. So now she's handicapped, and I like that they did that. I think that
Mhm.
it just made her situation more desperate, because
Right.
now she's she's basically blind on one side, because you got to have your ears in that situation.
Right.
Um, so of course we see Cato not too happy about what happens, and
Right.
yeah, he kills the guy who who's watching and didn't stop her, even though wasn't his fault.
Right.
He did what they asked, but it's the Hunger Games. He wasn't going to live very long anyway.
Right.
Once his usefulness was over, he was dead meat.
Right. Yep.
Um, so now in the book, and this is the part that's a little different. In the movie, when she runs looking for Rue, um, I like the sequence in the movie a little bit more than I liked it in the book.
Me
Um,
too.
in the book, they show Rue being captured, and she's hanging in a net,
Mhm.
and one of Cato's guys comes in and stabs her while she's trapped in the net.
Right.
Um, Stabs her in the stomach. In the book, uh, the guy comes up there, and him and Katniss square off, and it's like whoever can hit first.
Right.
And
Yep.
while she hits him, he hits Rue.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah. So Rue gets hit, and of course now she's dying, and she asked Catnip to sing, and so Catnip sings the song. This is probably the most singularly sad moment in the movie.
It is.
It really is. And I think this is, now you can go back to where Katniss in the movie, see, and this is, I think you could probably go back to here if
Mhm.
you really wanted to start anything at all. Why Snow did not like her, it would
Mhm.
be here in this moment now.
Yep.
This is where Katniss becomes goes on Snow's radar, because he buries her, or she puts flowers around her, sings to her, puts flowers around her, and then gives a salute. That
Yep.
this
This
team,
would. Yep.
and that is what triggers the like the emotion and the rebellion. And one, because there was no district; it was just two girls trying to survive. It
Right.
didn't matter what district they were; they're all one. And Katniss showed great compassion by staying with her at great risk,
Right.
by staying with her, and not letting her die alone. And
Mhm.
of course, that's where it happened. But in the book,
Right.
it doesn't explain that. It doesn't establish that's where the moment was, where she didn't explain at all, like in the movie did, where all of a sudden, the district where Rue was from, I think she was from District 5.
Yeah, she
Uh,
was from District 5.
um, it didn't show it in the book. It doesn't show those them going, like raging. It didn't do that at all. But in the movie, it did. Everybody's
Right.
sitting there watching a little girl die
Mhm.
horrifically, and then finally they just all snapped
Right.
and
Yeah.
They started fighting. So that's where the see in this respect, the movie did a better job than the book. But then again, Collins is
Mhm.
restrained by young adult guidelines. Like
Right.
I don't think she could go ahead and show a massive rebellion like this. I mean, I'm looking forward to, Catching Fire and Mockingjay, because I think while there are some horrific scenes ahead of us, but she still has to write within limits. Like you're writing for 13-year-olds.
Right.
You can't go crazy. Like, okay,
Exactly.
I'm gonna chop off everybody's head.
Hmm.
You know, um, you can't really do that in the book.
Right.
The movie actually has more leeway.
Yes, it does.
Think about it, it's really unusual that because most of the time it's the book that has the leeway because
Right.
because she got 374 pages to explain her story, and the movie had a little over 2 hours.
Right.
So I hope everybody's liking this. You think people are liking this?
Yeah, I think so.
I do too.
Um, and
It's
so then after this, Katniss is just like walking. I guess at this point she's trying to find to meet up with Peta, and she's near a river. And Peta, because he's a baker, and I guess maybe they might have decorated cakes in that in his shop or whatever. Peta's kind of like blending in with the nature, and he comes out and he's like hurt because Kato hurt him.
well, that's when the game masters, the game makers, that's when they came on board and they said,
Hmm.
attention everybody, now, because at this point in time there were three districts still intact,
Yep.
three, uh, and they say and the game maker came on there and said, this year, if you're the last two and you're from the same district, you'll win. So
Yep.
if you and your district mate can survive, you'll live. It's a new change.
Hmm.
And again, no interaction with him and Snow in the book, none. He just did
Right.
that on his own. Um,
And
so
so Katniss is near the river, and all of a sudden Peter grabs her leg. Can you imagine the look on her face? She was thinking it was like Kato or someone.
could you imagine what was rolling down her leg?
Yeah, maybe she thought it was a spider or something.
I'm sure she pissed herself. Like holy shit. Like what the hell? In
Hmm.
the movie, it was really creepy, but
Yeah,
it was really cool though.
yeah, it was.
Um, so yeah, so she does find Peta, and Peta is he's not long for this world.
No,
Uh,
he's like dying. Peter's
yeah,
slowly dying.
he's definitely slowly dying. Kato had really fucked him up, and
Hmm.
really bad. And
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting how they, like they show that, you know, like Peter was trying. He was trying his best. They finally rolled together inside that cave, and
Hmm.
Peter still was playing the game.
Yeah, he was.
Mhm. I mean, he was like, oh my gosh, there's my girlfriend. He's like, even then, as sick as he was still playing the game.
Hmm.
If you look back at that, I think that's really what saved both their lives.
Yeah, I think so too. And then they find the cave, so they go and hide out in the cave for like a couple of days.
Yeah. Um, she treats him with what she has.
Hmm.
And
But it's not enough
no, not
because
by
he
me.
starts to get fever and stuff.
Yeah, his leg is infected.
Hmm.
He got a deep wound over in his thigh where Kato slashed him with the sword, and he's gonna die. His infection's already in. It's starting to go
Hmm.
into his bloodstream, and but they play, they do the couple thing,
Yeah.
and the hug and the kiss, and like, oh my
Hmm.
god, everybody's watching, and they're feeling sorry for him, and you know Mitch gets some hey Mitch gets some food,
Yeah.
uh gets him a little bit of
Some soup.
food, a soup, yep.
And
And
then and
oh,
then
because
the
one kiss equal one soup, so they
right.
kiss, and then all of a sudden Hamish was able to get them a small bowl of soup, and
Hmm.
and Katniss realizes that the more they put themselves on display, the more that it'll encourage sponsors.
Right. and
Um,
then the game makers go on to thing and says because each at this point each of the players are all hurt, so they each need something to survive.
right. Yeah, if you go to the cornucopia, which now, because now it's down to it's just a handful of them now.
It's like 5 or 6 of them though.
5 or 6, yes. Cato, Glimmer, um, I think Thresh,
Hmm.
um, Foxface, and two other people. I think Cato and Glimmer were down to the last two complete. So
Yeah,
it's
they were.
yeah, so I think they're from District 1 versus basically District 12.
Hmm.
Um, as far
And
as
so PETA hears the same thing Katniss says, and Katniss is like, "I'm gonna go get the food, get the stuff for you, so you can feel better, the medicine." And PETA's like, "No, don't do that."
um, and yet I liked how clever it was, where Katniss was able to get away. She doctored his food with the
Yeah.
sleeping medicine, and he eats it, and he's like, hey, you can't go anywhere. You promise not to go anywhere. I promise. And then he realizes that, oh shit, you got me. You gave me a Mickey.
Yeah.
So he passes out, and she heads to the cornucopia. She has to get what's there. Everybody's needing something. So
Mhm.
this is the cool moment here. So she goes and she sees Foxface. There's
Mhm.
all these bags on the cornopia with different sizes of bags. Some bags are big, some are medium. Hers is very small. It's just a very small little bag.
Mhm.
It's what everybody needs. Everybody needs this. Believe me, I'm thinking to myself. I wonder when Cato was starting to regret what he asked for.
Mhm.
Um,
He probably asked for some food or something.
no, no, no. We'll find out what he asked for, and he got it. Oh, did
Yeah.
he get it? He got
Yeah,
it.
he did.
Um, so again, Foxface comes in early. She grabs her bag and she runs. And Katniss creeps up to get hers, and then she's jumped. She's jumped by Glimmer,
Mhm.
and Glimmer is much stronger than her, much better shape than her, and she and her and Katniss fight. Katniss tries to shoot her and wounds her, but doesn't knock her out.
Right.
And Glimmer hits her, and she's an expert with knives, so she overpowers Catnip, and I said Catnip. All right, Gail. Okay, so she overpowers Katniss. I said Catnip.
and
Shit.
then Thrush comes.
Yes. Oh man, when that scene in the movie hit, everybody lost their shit. He came
Mhm.
over there, and she's about ready to kill Katniss, and then all of a sudden you see that big old hand come up there and grab her, and says, because
Mhm.
she just Glimmer had monologue. That's
Yeah.
why that's why you never monologue for. Um,
Mhm.
Syndrome taught us that.
Right.
Okay, all right. Do you remember what movie Syndrome was in?
No.
What Syndrome? You don't remember what time?
Was that
You are
Spider-Man?
no, you are a Disney girl, aren't you?
Oh, The Incredibles.
Ah, got her. I got her.
Incredibles.
All right. You must be sleepy. Um,
No, I'm just I'm not sleepy. It's just I just don't I just haven't watched The Incredibles in a while.
yeah. Well, Syndrome mentions that how a lot of supervillains their undoing is they monologue, and that's what
Mhm.
happens to Glimmer. She's sitting there.
Yeah.
She's sitting there going, I'm gonna mess you up slow. I'm gonna take my time with you. And
Mhm.
and she's gonna overpower Katniss, and she basically blurts out that how
Yeah.
they killed Rue. Well, bad thing to say that without without checking your six, because here comes Thresh, and he grabs her, and he just in the
Right.
movie it's just like he just messes her up. He just like kills her.
Yeah.
Um, in the book, not quite so fast.
No.
Uh, he fractures her skull, he
Mhm.
hits a rock. He hits her in the head with a rock, fractures her skull, and
Right.
leaves her. And then he basically does tell. He overheard everything, and he knows, and he goes, Peru, this one time, 12,
Yeah.
and so he grabs his bag and he gets up and he runs too. He goes
They
back
all
to the beach. Yeah.
Katniss starts running too.
Katniss grabs her bag and she books out of there. And as she's running, she looks and she looks back and she sees Kato run into Glimmer,
Mhm.
and she's done for. And then right after he pretty much gets to her, we hear the cannon go off, and Glimmer is now gone. So
Mhm.
now it's Thresh, Kato, Foxface, Peta, and Katniss. So now there's five. Now,
Yes.
now you have to be able to win the games. You have to be from the same district. So I mean,
Mhm.
it's going to be hard for now it's going to be hard. Um,
Well, the other five are from different districts.
all from this, yeah. So Katniss races back to the cave and she applies the medicine to Peter's wounds.
Mhm.
Um, Katniss had used her medicine to heal herself, but the burn medicine really wasn't effective against the wounds that Peter had. I mean, the bumps and bruises that he had,
Right.
yeah, but the wound that he had now had to be treated with more medicine. And so
Mhm.
she treats him, and of course, she does it for the cameras, lovingly and whatnot. And you can see the star-crossed lovers and everything else.
Yes.
And so they stay there for another day, and then it's like we got to move, we got to get this going because the game makers are going to be tired of this, and they're going to
Mhm.
they're going to do this for us. They're going to
Yep.
finish this game for us if we don't. So they get out of the cave. Peter is he's limping. He's limping.
Yes.
He's still and of course they go looking for food. Of course they do because that's the big thing in this book, is food. And
Yep.
so they're going to gathering food, and PETA, they grab all these berries,
Yep.
and PETA has stacked them at a little area, for them, and so so they separate,
Mhm.
of course, and then there's a cannon shot, and
Now
of
there's
course,
three of them at this point.
but yeah, but Katniss doesn't know. It's like she panics because she thinks could it be PETA. So she
Right.
basically runs out, Peta, Peta, and he comes out, what? And says,
Mhm.
I thought it was you, I thought it was you. I thought you died, and then, they hug and kiss, and then
Right.
they go back, says, I got some berries. And so they go back, and the berries that Peta had picked were poison.
Right.
And Foxface, it was Foxface who died because she
Mhm.
stole the
Kato
berry.
killed Fox Fate.
Right. The nightshade. It was called nightshade, and it killed Foxface. She thought the berries were safe to eat because they were collecting them. So she was
Mhm.
following them, and she stole their food, not
Yeah.
knowing that. Well, they didn't know it was poison. Peter didn't know it was poison, and neither did she.
Mhm.
So there we go. So now we're down to three. We're down to
Yeah.
three. We're down to Cato and Peter and Katniss. And so they start going toward to look for. They basically going to start to look for Kato. They're gonna have to take him on.
Mhm.
But the game makers have one last surprise for them.
Yes, they do. They
And
make these dog-like things.
now they did not show this in the movie. I mean, they showed the dog face, but they did not go into detail in the movie about who they were.
Right.
They were genetically enhanced wolves, dogs,
Yep.
but they included the DNA of everybody that had already been killed.
Yes.
How horrific! And they knew it
Mhm.
in the eyes, and they knew you could see it. The people in their eyes. You could. I was thinking they're sort of like their consciousness might have been trapped. Like
Right.
it was actually one of the most hideous things I read in a science fiction book. It was cool as hell though. It's
Yeah,
like
it was.
that was wicked cool.
So now they're these dog or wolves or whatever you want to call them are chasing after him, trying to make all three of them be in the center of the copia. So
Hmm.
so they decide to go on top of the ship because it's the only way that they're going to survive these dogs.
Cato got there first,
Yes.
and he got on top first, and then PETA, and then Katniss. Or actually, I think it was the other way around. Katniss got on first, and then she pulled it. She helped pull PETA up. So they're all three of them are up there, and all three of the dogs are there. And here they are, they're looking at each other, and yeah, because no, I guess it was PETA. PETA went up second, and then Katniss, because
Yeah, Katniss was
um,
the last one to go up
yeah,
there.
she was the last one up. She helped PETA. When she turned around, she saw that Cato had
PETA.
right, and she shot him with an arrow, but the arrow bounced off, and that is what Cato asked for. He asked for body armor,
Mm-hmm.
so he had body armor on
Yep.
to stop the bow and arrow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so short of her putting the arrow in his eye, her bow and arrows weren't going to work. Um,
Right.
so he has PETA in a headlock, and he's going to slowly start killing him. And PETA breaks out,
Yep.
and they fight a little bit more, and then they push Kato off to the side.
Yep.
And this is where Kato was about thinking, like, you know what? It was then I knew I had I had messed up.
Right.
Um,
You had to go.
because the dogs attacked. I mean, even though Katniss started shooting the dogs, recognizing the people's in the eyes, she recognized their eyes and who they were.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but she didn't have, she didn't have all the arrows to kill them all.
Right.
Remember, at this point, there's 21. There's 21 of them,
Yes.
because there's 24 tributes, and there's only 3 left alive. So it's 21 wolves at the door, and she only
Mm-hmm.
has a few.
Yes.
And unfortunately for Kato is that his bodysuit, it protects him,
Mm-hmm.
but he couldn't. He was just
Yeah.
he was being slowly killed. I mean, it was horrific. It was horrific in the movie,
Yeah, it
and
was.
horrific in the book. I mean, he couldn't die because he was too well protected, but they were just taking turns chopping on his face,
Yeah.
basically. And
Mm-hmm.
you can hear him screaming and crying and all, and but and it
Right.
wasn't until the morning time where they were able to use the one last arrow, and Katniss was able to shoot and kill him and put him out of his misery. And thus, with the two winners of the 74th Hunger Games, they were the last two from the same
Right.
district. And
Mm-hmm.
so they're going to get ready to, they're like, okay, well, we won. So where's the ship? Where's
Right.
the hovercraft? And then the game maker comes on, and Crane, and he says, well, we were just joking about the two survivors from the same district.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go back, and kill, last man standing.
Kill each other.
And so neither one of them could do that. So Katniss has a better idea. He says, you know what? I don't want to kill you. You don't want to kill me, but we can
Mm-hmm.
still go out together.
Right.
We'll go out together. I'm not, we'll deny them their winner. We're not going to give them their winner. I'd rather die
Mm-hmm.
than I'd rather die. I'd rather give up my life than to kill you. And so they
Right.
take some of those deadly nightshade, and they're about ready to eat them. When the games maker comes back on one last time and says, "Stop, stop," and this is, ladies and gentlemen, we have your winner of the uh,
Hunger
74th
Games.
Hunger Games. Um, so yeah, there was no interaction between games. Actually, his name in the book was Claudia Templesmith, and we don't see any interaction in the book with him or President Snow. In fact, President Snow really isn't hardly even in this book at all, at all. Um, and so they win. Um, they get picked
Mm-hmm.
up, and they get taken back, and Peter goes to the hospital. Katniss goes to the hospital. Um,
Yeah.
they're there for a while. They have a lot of they're starving, they're banged up,
Mm-hmm.
they're not 100% healed. Um, and So when Katniss wakes up,
Yep.
lo and behold, she has her hearing back. They restored her hearing. They replaced her
Mm-hmm.
eardrum. And of course, Peeta is now whole as well.
Right.
And Cinna's there. All the rest of the people, Haymitch is there. They're sitting there
Ivy's
going,
there.
right. Effie's there. They're celebrating. They're celebrating the fact that they won. But it's
Mm-hmm.
not a joyful celebration at all. It's very subdued, and of course they go back onto the Caesar Flickerman show, and they have their last interviews, basically
Yep.
like an exit interview. Um, and then that's when they have their only interaction with President Snow, and it's not really much of interaction at all.
No.
And then they get back on the train and
The
they ride
district.
they ride back to the district. And on the way back, Katniss discovers that lo and behold, that she actually does have feelings for Peeta.
Yeah.
After all the ordeal, she actually realizes that she really does have feelings of emotions for him.
Yes.
I think she thought that eventually maybe it would be her and Gale, but it really was her and Peeta. And so
Mm-hmm.
the first book ends with those two arriving in District 12.
Yep. It was.
Um,
I think it was a really good book and a really good movie. I give the book a 9 out of 10, and I give the movie um an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree with you about the book score for sure. I mean, for what it is, I really thought it was smartly written.
Mm-hmm.
It told a great story without going into graphic detail. Um, I would have no problem at all letting my 12, 13-year-old kid read this book. I have no.
Right.
There's no profanity in the book,
No.
uh, which shockingly so. That's really probably what surprised me more than anything else was the fact that there wasn't any profanity in the book.
Right.
Considering that a PG-13 movie,
Mm-hmm.
you're allowed to say, you're allowed to say the F word a couple of times. You're allowed to take the Lord's name in
Right.
vain a couple of times. But in here, none of that. None. It's a harrowing story. It's a cautionary tale. Um, and again, it only gets better as it goes forward. So I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoyed this book quite a bit, and I think this is a
Right.
great book to start off our series.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the book. It was really good. And I hope you guys.
Offer your comments down below.
Yes. Let us know in the comment section below if you guys seen the book or the movie, or what other kind of books you guys want us to talk about. This is a really enjoyable discussion, almost 2 hours.
I know we're supposed to do this in an hour.
I know. And
Oh,
so I hope you guys enjoy. Do you have anything going on your channel, Patrick?
yes. Tomorrow, Monday, the 22nd, I'll be joined by the mighty Hobbs Hoare, King of the Spooktacular. Um, and he and I will be interviewing actress and stunt person extraordinaire Julie Michaels, who many of you might remember from Friday the 13th, Jason Goes to Hell. She played Agent Marcus, as well as her very first role. She was only 18 years old when she did this role, when she played Denise on Roadhouse. But she
That
is
sounds
one.
like fun.
It's going to be fun. She's an Emmy Award winner. Uh, she has. She also has done, like I said, she's done world class stunt work. She's also worked as a casting director.
Oh wow.
Um, her sons are race car drivers.
Nice.
They race cars, and we'll be talking with her tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. And then Tuesday, we'll be talking with bass player extraordinaire Todd Strange for the band I Am. Some of you might remember him from the band Down and Crowbar. And he will be with us on Tuesday, the 23rd at 8 o'clock. And I'll be joined by special co host Jonas from the Friendly Men.
Nice. That
How about
sounds like
you?
a great week.
gonna be fun. What's on your channel this week?
I just besides this, I might do some reviews this week. It depends on my work schedule because it's just easier for me right now to go onto other people's channels than to do movie reviews right now. Just because my work, I've been working like 50 hours a week because I don't have extra help, so it's kind of hard at the moment. So the only day that I can really do movie reviews are like on Sundays, record them. So
Now, are you getting paid overtime for your
yes.
extra? Oh, okay. I was gonna say I don't. If it's one of those
Hmm.
hourly jobs, screw that.
So for me right now, it's a little hard to do. I actually had a couple hours so I could do this, but because I'm off on Sundays, so maybe on Sundays I might do some videos. We'll see. But
Okay.
for right now, it's just easier to be on other people's channels.
Well, we might see you Friday night.
Yes.
We might see you Friday night. I will get back to you about that. If that happens, you guys will have to come into my channel at 8 o'clock to see if Katie is joining me at 8 o'clock, which I hope that she is because I do think it'll be a fun interview. We will be talking with our friend Lady Valerie.
Yes, so let me know in the comment section, or let Patrick know in the comment section, or both of us will both will be in the comment section. Let us
Oh,
know what
oh,
kind of movies or what kind of books you guys want us to review next. So the next book we will review in the series will be The Mockingjay, and stay
no, we'll be watching. We'll be covering
Catching
Catching
Fire.
Fire.
I don't know why I get those two mixed up. I don't know why. I just do.
You know why? Because you're still thinking about the fact that I stumped you with the syndrome question.
Maybe. Well, people know how I am. Uh, Catching Fire is my favorite book and favorite movie. It's a really cool book. I hope you guys, if you have not read this series, I hope you guys get a chance. It's a really good series to read,
Hmm.
and I hope everybody has a great evening. And love you all. Bye, guys.
Catching Fire.